Generally speaking, there are three things that sound designers get worked up about. One of them is FMOD. FMOD, if you've never heard of it, is an audio middleware, which is the fancy way of saying that it's basically GameMaker's audio engine on steroids. Like, this is a professional audio solution that large AAA games use. The second thing is Wishlist, which is basically the same thing but made by a different company. And the third thing is arguing about whether FMOD or Wishlist is better, because apparently just arguing about normal things like pineapple on pizza isn't enough for these people. Anyway, about a month ago, GameMaker released their official FMOD extension, which will create a nice interface between GameMaker and FMOD and allow you to access all of the fun audio-related features of FMOD from GameMaker. It's probably, honestly, one of the more interesting things that have happened in the last few months. And today I'm going to show you how to set it up in GameMaker and show off some basic things that you can do with it. So if you're not familiar with GameMaker's built-in audio system, you're probably going to want to be familiar with GameMaker's audio system before you try to dive into FMOD. In this video, I'm going to take an old project in which I showed off GameMaker's audio system in a tutorial, and I'm basically going to replace all of GameMaker's built-in audio stuff with FMOD. In the future, I'll probably make more videos on things that you can do with some of the more complicated aspects of this tool set, but we're going to start with the easy stuff. So firstly, to find the extension for GameMaker, you can go to the GitHub repository that I will be linking down in the description of this video. You're going to need a few things to set up here. One of them is, let's see, where is it? You're going to have to download the FMOD SDK yourself. This I should probably mention about now. FMOD is not like free and open source software the way that some other things are. This is a very professional, very proprietary set of tools. You're going to probably want to have a look at their licensing page. It's, all things considered, this shouldn't be like a deal breaker or anything. But for example, if you're an indie developer and you make less than $200,000 US a year, which is realistically speaking going to be most people, then you can use FMOD for free. If you go above that threshold, then you're going to want to start shelling out money for their license. Probably not a deal breaker, but again, just something to keep in mind. Anyway, to download the FMOD SDK, you are going to need to actually create an account on their website, sign in, and then you can go and download the various parts of the FMOD engine. For example, for Windows, which is the part that I care about, you can also download the FMOD engine for Mac or Linux or iOS or Android or whatever other platforms you intend on building your game for. There's also FMOD Studio, which is, I believe this is going to be the audio workstation itself, like the big fancy complicated audio software that if you're really into sound design and you're really interested in like using software to create the audio in your game, then you might be interested in downloading and installing this too. I'm not going to go there today. I might in the future. And then, of course, you're going to want to come over to the releases page on this FMOD for GameMaker extension. Download the latest release, currently 003, and we can head on over to GameMaker. Actually, not quite. Firstly, I'm going to need to open the downloads folder. I'm going to need to let's install the FMOD Studio API for Windows. We can go and run through this installer. You're going to want to pay attention to the destination folder where it installs to, because this you're going to need to remember this in order to set up the extension in GameMaker. So on Windows, it's going to install to this path, C, program files, whatever. I'm just going to copy that and stick that in a little notepad window so that I can come back to that later. I'm not going to install it now. I guess I am going to install it now because I've already installed it previously. Anyway, that's going to go and take care of itself. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take... Oh, for God's sake, can I cancel that? All right, how about you go away? The next thing I'm going to do is take the FMOD extension, .yyNPS, that I downloaded from GitHub. Going to drag that into GameMaker. Let's say import the asset package. The project tool is going to do its thing. That took a little bit of time. The only folder that you need to import into your project is going to be the FMOD folder itself, which contains the extensions folder, the extension itself, and some additional GML code to go with it. If you're interested in GameMaker's demo for the FMOD extension, you might consider adding these other things to an empty project, but they're not needed for just, like, actual use of the extension for your own game. That's just GameMaker's demo. Let's see, I'm going to import this. Let's close the project tool, that's cool. I'm going to firstly need to go into the FMOD folder that I just imported. Click on the extension, and we're going to need to set something up. So under extension options down here at the bottom of the extensions window, you're going to need to take where you installed FMOD Studio API for Windows, and you're going to need to stick that in this text field so that you can, okay, so if you click on that little dots menu, it'll open up a file finder. The FMOD extension needs to know where to find the FMOD Studio API because that's what it actually links to when you build your game. The GameMaker extension itself doesn't come with the FMOD DLLs or anything like that because, licensing. If you also have installed the SDK for things like Mac OS or Linux or any of the consoles or whatnot, you're also going to want to set those up here. I'm just concerned with Windows for now. I have not actually tried this for Linux, but I haven't heard anything bad about it, so I assume that it works pretty much the same way as Windows.
Hey.
And let's see, I think that takes care of that. So, if I open this project in Explorer, I have gone ahead and added a few sound files to the included files to the data files folder in the GameMaker project. We have bgm.wave, which is the background music that I like, that little 30-second loop that I like to use in some of these demos. We have the coin sound effect. I guess I can just play this all. Yeah, that little happy little background music. We've also got footstep.og, which is the footstep sound effect. Don't ask why I decided to save this as an OG. Apparently that's just how I did it initially. And we've also got a special guest, pc.mid, and if I were to open that up in a MIDI editor, that is the Pokemon Center music from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. And I don't think most people are really interested in MIDIs in the current year, but FMOD can use them, so I thought that I would just give it some acknowledgement. So, those are our sounds. You'll notice that I have not loaded those into the GameMaker project as sound assets. FMOD's audio system works entirely separately from GameMaker's audio system, and there is no way for GameMaker to communicate to FMOD with a built-in sound asset like this. I don't know if that's a thing that you can do and I just haven't found a way, or if that's a thing that might get added in the future for ease of use. But anyway, the first thing we're going to need to do is create an FMOD system with the FMOD system create function. I'm also going to need to initialize that FMOD system with FMOD system init. The FMOD system init function is going to take two arguments. One of them is going to be the number of channels. This is essentially boils down to the number of concurrent sounds that can play. I suppose I'll initialize that to 1024. 1024 seems to be a pretty well accepted default. If you're working with really old iPhones or something like that, you might want to make this lower, like 512 or something. But by most accounts, 1024 is going to be fine on any reasonably modern computer. We're also going to want a set of configuration flags. Any particular settings you want to create the FMOD system with. If you don't need any particular advanced settings that you can create the FMOD system with, you can just say fmod init.normal. This is going to be an enum, which is going to represent a bit field of different flags, different options. You can combine these together with logical OR if you're into that sort of thing. If you don't know what any of this is, if you don't know what flags or logical OR or bitwise operations or anything are, then just set it to fmod init.normal. Don't worry about anything else. And when we initialize the FMOD system, max channels and FMOD flags. So now we've created and initialized our FMOD system. It would generally be a good idea. By the way, this would go in whatever object you're using as your main game controller or your main game manager or whatever you've decided to call it. In this demo, I put it in just the player because that's kind of what the player ended up turning into in this demo. You more than likely have some kind of game controller or game manager or something like that of your own in your game. Whatever object is going to run all the fun initialization code and that kind of thing. Just put this put this fmod initialization code in the create event for that object. What you're also going to do is go into the step event and say fmod system update. This is actually not needed for what I'm going to do in this video, but for some of the more advanced effects, you will want to call the fmod system update function in every step of the game. I forget exactly which effects require this to run in order to be updated constantly. I want to say this relates to stuff like 3D positional audio and that kind of thing. I'll show a list of what it affects on screen right now. If you're not using any of those effects, then calling the fmod system update function won't really do anything, but I think it's good to just have that function there from the start just in case you decide to use some of those advanced features later and you don't want to forget to include that function and have them not work. Anyway, there's also fmod system close if you ever wanted to remove an fmod system. You can save this, by the way, to a variable if you want. I'm not entirely sure how often you're going to be creating more than one fmod systems in a game, or how often you're going to be deleting fmod systems, because generally I would think that you would want those to happen to be created on game start and just automatically be shut down when the game ends. At which point the operating system is going to shut everything down for you anyway, but it's there. Next, we're going to need to create some sounds. This means that we're going to need to load the sounds from our data files folder, and we can do that with fmod system create sound. Where was it? Fmod system create sound. We're going to want the name of the sounds. I guess I'll start with bgm.wave. We're also going to want to pass in an argument for the sound mode. This is also going to be a series of flags. So you can type fmod_mode in all caps, and this is going to be itself another enum full of different settings. This is going to relate to all of the different audio file settings that you might care to have. So you can have audio loop, you can have 3D audio. Those are probably the flags that are going to be the most relevant most often. There's a few more that you can use. I am going to initialize the BGM with the flag fmod_mode.loop normal, because I do want this to loop. I don't want it to just play once. As with the flags for the system, you can, if you want to combine multiple flags, use logical OR. If you're not super familiar with that kind of mathematical operation, I would say don't worry about it and either use loop normal or default, which is for no special settings. And let's see, I'm going to save the result of this function call to sound_bgm. And we can think of this now as one of the sound assets that we might have added to GameMaker in the past using, one of these things. Okay, one small caveat here. You can load, at least on Windows, you can load a sound from a file just by giving it the name of the file name from inside the data files folder. The fmod demo seems to recommend that you instead say fmod path bundle, and you pass in the file name to that, and this will take care of some platform-specific loading code. I don't have a Switch dev kit, and I don't have an Android build system set up, so I can't check to see if this is actually necessary or not, but I would recommend doing that. I would recommend wrapping the file name inside the fmod path bundle, just so that in case there is any platform file system weirdness, that you won't have to worry about that, and fmod will be able to find your sound. Anyway, once you've loaded our sound, I can say if I want to, let's say play the sound the same way that we're going to be playing our background music, or the same way that we were playing our background music just through GameMaker, fmod system play sound. We can pass that the argument of sound_bgm, and we can pass that a true or false argument for whether or not you want the sounds to start paused, which I realize sounds a little bit silly, but FMOD will do pretty much all of its audio processing on another thread, and it won't wait for like the next game step or anything to start playing your audio. And if you want to apply further sound settings to a sound before you play it or right after you play it, you may wish to start it paused, apply whatever other sound settings you want. I'm not going to get into that, and then start the sound when you're done. But in my case, I'm just going to say start pause is going to be false. And if I run the game now, and it took a little while for the GameMaker ASCII compiler to wake up. I don't know why. Here we have audio playing, and it's playing through FMOD. It's not playing through the GameMaker audio system. Alright, I think I'm going to cut that off now. If you were to listen to the whole 30-second loop, it would indeed just start over from the beginning, because we do have the FMOD mode loop set. So that's fun. I also said that you can use MIDI files. You can actually use quite a few different file formats, audio formats, with FMOD. I want to say it's like, I'll try to dig up the complete list of audio formats that FMOD supports. It's pretty extensive. Anyway, if I run this now, we're going to hear the Pokemon Center, the Ruby and Sapphire Pokemon Center MIDI playing. Alright, that's pretty fun. Let's see, I'm actually going to comment this out because I'm actually going to not want this playing while I do some of the other audio things, because it's going to distract me. I'm also going to load in, let's say, sound coin, and that's going to be coin.wave. For the coin sound effect, I'm going to say fmod mode dot, what was it? Not normal, default. Fmod mode dot default. And the coin sound effect is not going to loop. And I'm also going to load in sound underscore footstep, and this is going to be footstep.og. Also loaded with fmod mode dot default. And now I can pop over to the step event, where you attempt to talk to the NPC is where I had the coin sound effect playing in the original GameMaker audio demo. We can say fmod system play sound. The sound reference is going to be sound coin. Start paused, again, that's going to be false. If I were to now run the game, and if I were to attempt to talk to an NPC like this, alright, we can make that sound play basically whenever you hit the space bar, because this isn't like a real robust conversation system that actually checks to see if you're actually talking to someone before playing the sound. Anyway, that's our coin sound effect. If we wanted to have the footstep sound effect play, we can do something pretty similar. Sound underscore footstep. And this is going to create a bit of a problem, because this is going to sound a little bit awful. And if you don't know why, you'll find out in a minute. Alright, that sounds a little bit awful, and the reason for that is that we are actually playing a new instance of this footstep sound effect pretty much every frame that we're moving, which is not something we want. GameMaker has a nice function called audio is playing, which you can pass either in like a GameMaker sound asset or an instance of a playing sound, and you can check if it's playing or not. As far as I know, and there very well might be a solution to this that I just haven't found yet, FMOD does not actually have a function to tell you whether or not a sound is playing, just like full stop. There is an FMOD mode, I want to say it's unique, and this will have it so that only one instance of a sound can play, and if another instance plays, it will stop the first. But that's not really what we want either. That could be useful in some circumstances, but it's not really what we want. We don't really want to hear the footstep sounds just like the first couple samples of it playing constantly and then being stopped and then started again. Again, that doesn't really sound very good when you're continuously moving, so that's no good. What you can do, the fmod system play sound function will return a value the same way that audio play sound will return like the instance ID of the currently playing sound. And that value will correspond to the channel on which the sound plays. So you remember how we initialized the system to have like 1,000 channels. FMOD system play sound will return the channel ID. So what we can do is, for example, in the create event, we can initialize a value called channel footstep to -1. When we play the footstep sound, we can save the return value of that into the channel footstep variable, and then before we play it, we can check if this is not equal to -1, or we can check if fmod channel control is playing channel footstep. So we can check if a sound is playing on a particular channel. And this will be roughly equivalent to the GameMaker audio is playing function. This will cause the, well, you can step through the logic here. If the sound is not playing on the channel, we can just play it, and then while the sound is playing, this will return true, and then you won't be able to play it again until the sound is finished. And that will, for our purposes at least, solve our audio problems. It actually does not. Did I miss... Oh, this needs to be equals equals, not equals. Okay. Let me try that again. Now the sound waits until it's finished playing before it starts playing again. Alright, so there's one little problem where this is the channel ID, and this is not, like, a reference to the actual sound that's playing, and it's possible that, like, the sound finishes playing, and if you play another sound, it will land on the same channel ID, and then this will not work properly. So there's another function, fmod channel control get sound. Fmod channel get sound. Fmod channel get current sound. I meant to write this down. Like, I wrote down all the other functions that I wanted to talk about in this video, but I forgot to write down this one. Anyway, you can check, we can toss an additional or fmod channel gets current sound channel footstep is not equal to sound footstep, and this should be enough to make sure that the sound is not already playing on this footstep channel before we start playing another one. All right. I don't have a very large and elaborate project to demo this in with a bunch of sounds playing at once to see if it behaves properly, but that should work. Anyway, I think that is all I really wanted to demo here. Now that I'm finished, I guess I can play the background music again, because I don't have to listen for the other sound effects. This is basic FMOD use. If you wanted to do nothing but replace the built-in GameMaker's audio system with FMOD, this should set you on the right path. If you want to do more advanced things like audio effects or different things that you can do with channel control, or even like spectral analysis if you wanted to have like some kind of beat map, FMOD can take care of that. Those are some of the more advanced features of FMOD, and I'd like to make videos on some of the other things at some point, but that will have to wait for another day. Lastly, before I go, there is the question of like, if you have a game that's currently in progress, should you rip out all of the audio code you've already written using GameMaker's audio system and replace it with FMOD? And I would say that you should only really do that if you're trying to do something that the GameMaker audio system doesn't really do a good job with. Like, if you're really getting into the advanced sound effects and advanced things with 3D positional sound, then you probably would benefit from taking out all of the GameMaker audio system code from your project and dropping in FMOD instead. But if you're not doing anything really elaborate, it's probably not worth spending the time, you know, rewriting a whole bunch of your code just to support this. By all means, get it ready to go when you start your next project, but I'm not sure if I would recommend just having this in your project for the sake of having it there, because for simple things, it is admittedly a little bit overkill. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot, but one of the more recurring complaints about GameMaker's audio is that if you have background music added to your project that's to be streamed from the disk, like just as like an OGG file, GameMaker will not put them in the data bundle, and GameMaker will put streamed audio files just in the like in the root folder of your project when you build the executable. And if you have a lot of background music in your game, that can sort of start to clutter things up a little bit after a while. So Something that FMOD lets you do is you can put your audio files in a subfolder, and Windows Explorer is having a bit of a hard time with this project folder for whatever reason, so I'm just gonna let that be. And you can load your audio from a subfolder, and you can not have to worry about having a bunch of pieces of background music just cluttering up your game's directory. So that's pretty exciting. I don't know why Windows Explorer is just like getting stuck here. It did that when I copied the files into the folder too, for reasons which are beyond me. Right, there it goes. Anyway, if I run this, GameMaker will be perfectly happy to, or FMOD rather, will be perfectly happy to load these audio files from the subfolder, and we no longer are going to have all that cluttering up the game's main directory when we build the executable. Anyway, I'm going to end this off here. My name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. I like to cover some of the weird things that you can do in GameMaker, particularly 3D stuff and shader stuff and whatnot. So if any of that appeals to you, feel free to subscribe. I also have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. And if you felt like pledging, I definitely would appreciate it. You should all go check out Wizarducks, which is the game that I like to work on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down in the video description. I will most likely, by the way, not be implementing FMOD in that project, because as I mentioned a little while ago, I've already written a lot of audio code and it's working, and I'm not sure if I really want to rip all that out and start over again. All other relevant links can be found down in the description of the video as well. I hope you all found that useful, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, VitroV, Squarecrow, Manta Ray, GameMaker, Edward Holt, and DJ Gibbles for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.